Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're diving into the work of visionary German artist Ernst Ludwig Kirchner. And just one note before we begin, in this video we'll be discussing mental illness and self-harm. As always, I encourage you to use your discretion in deciding whether this video is right for you or not. Kirchner was born in Bavaria in 1880 and had an interest in art from a young age. In spite of Kirchner's interest, his parents pressured him to pursue a more practical career in architecture. While studying in Dresden, Kirchner and his friend Fritz Bleyl met another pair of friends, Erich Heckel and Carl Schmidt-Rottluff, all of whom were interested in painting, but like Kirchner, had been pressured to study architecture by their parents. The four decided to form a new group called Die Brücke, or The Bridge. There is some debate over the precise meaning of the group's name, whether it symbolized the joining of two groups of friends or a step onto new shores of art making. Unlike other artist groups of the time, which were often prone to issuing lengthy manifestos, the Bridge issued only a few short statements calling for vague things like artistic freedom, but the revolutionary nature of the group soon became plainly evident in their paintings. All of European art was undergoing revolutionary changes at the turn of the century. Post-Impressionists like Vincent van Gogh painted with bold and clearly visible brushstrokes, capturing personal perspectives of a scene rather than exact likenesses. Also, Fauvist painters like Henri Matisse, André Derain, and Raoul Dufy began using a remarkably vibrant color palette. In place of selecting colors most natural or accurate to the scene, the Fauvists picked hues for their boldness, resulting in rich yet unrealistic compositions. Kirchner and the other Bridge artists built on these ideas, selecting bold colors which expressed their innermost feelings. The idea of expressing inner feelings through painting gave rise to the name for this style, Expressionism. Though the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch is typically regarded as the first expressionist, the Bridge group rapidly made the style their own. The Bridge artists were especially keen to express the importance of a primal connection with nature. Feeling that industrialization had distanced mankind from its own humanity, the Bridge artists regularly painted nude figures in an unspoiled natural paradise. In spite of their fixation on unspoiled nature, Kirchner and the other Bridge artists moved to Berlin in the early 19-teens and began exploring life in the city. But the move was more difficult for Kirchner than for his colleagues in the group. The sensuously curved brushstrokes that had characterized Kirchner's work up to that point were replaced by sharply angled strokes that tremored with nervous intensity. Highly sensitive and prone to bouts of intense anxiety, Kirchner found his mood worsened by the pressure of city life and his sense of alienation. He identified greatly with Berlin's sex workers, who he presumed lived on the margins of polite society, as he felt he himself did. He also fell out with his colleagues in the Bridge group. Prone to self-aggrandizement, Kirchner published a history of the Bridge group in 1913, which situated himself as the key figure of the group and exaggerated his contributions. Kirchner had even gone as far as changing the dates on some of his paintings to make it look like he preceded his colleagues in developing the group's signature style. Outraged by Kirchner's ego, the other members of the Bridge dissolved the group shortly after Kirchner's history was published. The following year, World War I broke out across Europe and Kirchner enlisted in the army. Though he found the rigidity of army life intolerable and suffered a nervous breakdown just months into his service that resulted in his discharge. In one of his best-known self-portraits, Kirchner captured his time in the army by painting himself in his uniform with hollow blue eyes and a severed right hand. Kirchner did not actually lose his hand in the army, so the severed hand is perhaps symbolic of a sort of creative impotence. Standing in his studio with a nude model in the background, he is nonetheless unable to paint. In reality, Kirchner would paint again, though he never fully recovered from his breakdown. He spent the next few years in various sanitariums before settling in the remote Swiss mountains. Presumably, a more provincial life would have eased some of the anxiety that Kirchner experienced in Berlin. But in reality, he grew increasingly paranoid in this state of social isolation, filling his diary with unfounded accusations that various colleagues or gallerists had tried to cheat him. Kirchner wrote art criticism under the pen name Louis de Marsal, praising his own work in an attempt to secure his legacy in art history. He also painted some later works inspired by Cubism, but in my opinion, Kirchner's Cubist-inspired works lack both the brilliance of Cubism's primary practitioners and the raw feeling of Kirchner's own earlier work. I think they are his least successful paintings. Still living in isolation in the Swiss mountains, Kirchner observed the rise of fascism in his native Germany with great concern. Kirchner was among the artists branded as degenerate by the Nazis' infamous 1937 exhibition. Despondent over this state of affairs and worn down by years of struggle with his mental health, Kirchner took his own life in June of 1938. Thanks so much for watching this one. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.